Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines of this hour. According to Kremlin's remarks, Russian President Vladimir Putin has welcomed Madagascar's President Michael Randrianirina to Moscow, pledging to deepen cooperation in agriculture, geological exploration, energy, medicine, healthcare, and education. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz will visit China next week, arriving in Beijing for key talks with President Xi Jinping. During his visit, Merz will discuss human rights, the Ukraine war, and Germany's interests, while being joined by a business delegation with no further details provided. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said she wants to accelerate talks on amending the constitution and reforming imperial succession rules. Speaking in Parliament, she calls for cross-party cooperation to revise the imperial house law and advance national debate. President Donald Trump warns Iran it has 10 to 15 days to strike a deal over its nuclear program or face really bad things, as Tehran threatens to retaliate against U.S. bases if attacked amid a major U.S. military buildup in the Middle East. Trump says talks are progressing but insists Iran must agree to a meaningful settlement. According to Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor is released from police custody after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office over claims he sent confidential government documents to Jeffrey Epstein. Detectives from Thames Valley Police Station questioned him for hours as they investigate allegations he passed the files while serving as a trade envoy. Britain's Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio this Friday in Washington. The talks come after U.S. President Donald Trump renewed his criticism of the UK over the Chagos Islands deal. South Korea's former President Yoon Suk-yeol apologizes for the hardship caused by his 2024 martial law decree, one day after being sentenced to life in prison. In a statement released through his lawyer, Yoon says he's deeply sorry for the frustration caused by his actions. According to South African police spokesperson Colonel Dimakatso Nevhuhulvi, 2 men were taken into custody after a gardener was shot at the home of former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe's family, with reports identifying one suspect as Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe, the son of the former leader, as investigations continue. Now for this hour, we start with Germany. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said he will visit China next week, highlighting the importance of maintaining dialogue with Beijing. Merz has said the trip would focus on economic ties, global security, and China's role in international affairs. The visit comes as Germany continues to balance its economic interests with concerns over dependence and geopolitical risks. Merz's trip is expected to draw attention as Berlin reviews its broader strategy towards China. The visit is likely to be closely watched by both political and business leaders as Germany navigates a complex relationship with China amid global economic pressures and rising geopolitical tensions. Let's listen into what the German Chancellor has shared.
Genau deshalb in der nächsten Woche mit einer großen Wirtschaftsdelegation nach China reisen. Übrigens darf ich mal in Klammern hinzufügen, da werde ich wieder lesen in den Zeitungen, der Außenkanzler. Ich empfinde das mittlerweile als ein Kompliment. Denn ich möchte die Bundesrepublik Deutschland nach außen vertreten. Und ich habe bei den meisten Reisen große Wirtschaftsdelegationen dabei, die genau das verstanden haben. Dass Außenpolitik heute auch Außenwirtschaftspolitik ist und dass Außenwirtschaftspolitik ein wesentlicher Teil unserer Wirtschaftspolitik ist. China sieht sich heute im ausdrücklichen Gegensatz zu den USA und erhebt den Anspruch, eine neue multilaterale Ordnung nach eigenen Regeln zu definieren. Meinungsfreiheit, Religionsfreiheit und die Freiheit der Presse kommen in diesem Verständnis nicht vor. Der Einsatz für die universelle Geltung der Menschenrechte wird dort als Einmischung in die inneren Angelegenheiten zurückgewiesen.
We have a breaking news coming in from Germany. The European Commission has approved the German government's continued control over Rosneft's German assets. This decision simply extends the true trusteeship arrangement that has been in place since 2022. When Moscow's invasion of Ukraine upended Germany's energy ties with Russia, Rosneft's German arm, which owns a controlling stake in the PCK oil refinery, a key supplier of fuel to Berlin, Eastern Germany, and the local chemicals industry, will remain under the government's trusteeship until a new structure is established. The trusteeship was initially set to be reviewed every 6 months, and this latest approval ensures it will continue. Rosneft has not yet commented on this extension of the trusteeship. Now we move on to Middle East. Muslim worshippers gathered at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound for the first Friday prayers of Ramadan, marking a significant religious occasion under tight security. Israel has capped the number of Palestinian worshippers from the occupied West Bank allowed to attend at 10,000 for weekly Friday prayers during the holy month. The restrictions, which apply to men over 55, women over 50, and children up to 12, are being enforced due to security concerns. The prayers were held for the first time since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect in October, offering many Palestinians their first opportunity since last Ramadan to visit the site. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, part of the Noble Sanctuary as the third holiest site in Islam, but it is also a flashpoint in the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Over 3,000 Israeli police officers were deployed across Jerusalem, with officials stating that their presence was not to show aggression, but to provide emergency assistance if needed. Now we move on to Germany. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has emphasized that only maximum pressure could persuade Russian President Vladimir Putin to back down in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference in Poland alongside other European defense ministers, Pistorius has reiterated that Germany and its allies would continue their unwavering support for Ukraine.
Und wir sind zutiefst davon überzeugt, nur maximaler Druck aus Sanktionen, aus Maßnahmen gegen die Schattenflotte und ukrainische Erfolge auf dem Gefechtsfeld können Putin zum Einlenken bewegen. Und deswegen unterstützen wir die Ukraine weiterhin.
Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stated that the European Union is set to adopt its 20th sanctions package against Russia, aimed at further escalating economic pressure on Moscow in response to its invasion of Ukraine. Now we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us. And now looking at this, Yes, sorry, I was thinking of a question. Well, I can't think of any. If you would like to share your comments on this.
In this case, Russia and Ukraine, European believe Russia does not have the will to end this war, because in some areas they are winning, and even if it's a small victory, they can expand the territory. It's achievements they can, and so long war means that more wider areas they can get. At the same time, indeed, this war is not cost effective for Russia. But so that's why even if they expand territory, there's a possibility Putin faces some criticism. But if he continues to fight, no one will decide the result of war. This means that cost effective or not is not the matter. And another reason is intelligence service of the Estonia indicates that there is a possibility that Russia still keeps some ammunitions, because when they check the amount of the ammunition Russia produce and how many ammunition they use in the battle zone, in this case there is a gap. So that's why there's a possibility Russia has maintained some certain number of the ammunition for something, the big military operation. This means that view from these three situations, if Russia continue the war, Russia can get more benefit. And if the ceasefire has happened just now, this benefit Russia will not get. So that's why European believes Russia does not have the will to end the war just now, and ceasefire negotiation is not seeking the real ceasefire. There's a possibility buying the time to do something later. So was avoiding sanction from the United States. So that's why the Europeans say more sanction is better to making pressure for Putin to agree the ceasefire, not something the good suggestion for Putin. This good suggestion is wasting time. Indeed, anyways, Russia does not have the will to end the war. But that kind of logic exists. But that is the background.
Yes.
And in my opinion, there's a possibility it is true.
Thank you for highlighting that. And I would like to also welcome Mr. Matthew Vadam from States for this discussion as well. Building on Dr. Satoru Nagao's answer, what do you think was the reason for the European Commission President to, adopt this 20th sanctions package? Since 19 sanctions packages have not been effective in coercing Russia into, ending the war with Ukraine. What do you think about this one now?
I think that the European Union wants Vladimir Putin to withdraw his forces from Ukraine, and doesn't, and they're at wit's end trying to figure out how to do it. So they are proposing more punishment for Russia. I think that's what it boils down to.
Right. But now welcoming back Dr. Nagao to this discussion. Dr. Nagao, since it's 20th, do you think that this will just go on and on? Or do you think this is their one of last resorts, and now they have other cards to play towards Russia?
In this case, this is U.S. interest, I believe, because the U.S. want to deal with American continent first. After that, China is second, not Russia. Russia is third and fourth priority. So that's why to deal with China, how to do that, divide China and Russia is one of the solutions. During the U.S.-Soviet Cold War, the U.S. allied with China to contain Soviet Union. So now the completely opposite. U.S. want to divide China and Russia. At least Russia take distance from China is U.S. interest, because the U.S. need to deal with China. So that's why the ending the war in Ukraine opens the door of the negotiation between U.S. and Russia to divide China and Russia. So that's why the U.S. want to seek the ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, and remove the reason of the battle between U.S. and Russia indirectly. So that's why the U.S. want to continue. But in case of Russia, Russia does not have the will to end this battle, because continuing the war is beneficial for Russia, they believe. And continuing the negotiation is avoiding the additional sanction from the United States. So that's why this is useful. But who really want to continue this ceasefire is indeed United States side, I believe. And view from Ukraine, diplomatic solution is only solution, I believe. But at the same time, this means just now, if they stop all of the territories Russia occupied is Russian, and Ukraine cannot get back. So that's why indeed Ukraine want to take back a little more. That is real opinion inside of the Ukraine, I believe. But anyway, Ukraine rely on United States, and Ukraine will follow the United States, I think.
With that, I'd like to thank Dr. Satoru Nagao and Mr. Badam for sharing that insight on this news. Thank you very much. Now we move on. Newly released Department of Justice files reveal that Jeffrey Epstein was offered the chance to buy significant U.S. government real estate, including a Department of Defense building near the Pentagon in 2016. The $116 million deal would have made Epstein a co-owner and landlord to the U.S. government, raising serious security concerns. The files also highlight Epstein's ties to Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, and his financial support for Israeli groups. Now, Epstein's close connections to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and his alleged role as a spy have come under scrutiny as the documents shine a light on his global network. Now we welcome back Mr. Matthew Badam. He's an American journalist and author, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Badam, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, what are we to make of the fact that he was offered, or Jeffrey Epstein was offered, a chance to buy such a crucial estate in connection to U.S. government? And also, what do you think about his espionage controversy, or alleged espionage for Israel role?
I'm not sure about this possible real estate deal where he would have gotten, property of the federal, would have become a landlord of the federal government, in effect. It suggests that he was very close to people in the U.S. government, and it may mean that they were looking for a way to him to have to be closer to the U.S. government, to have ties to it. I don't know that it necessarily, smacks of corruption, but it's just unusual given what we've come to know about Jeffrey Epstein. There are allegations now that I used to take as just, wild conspiracy theories, that he had connections to the Israeli intelligence agency, the Mossad, but as more documents come to light, it seems like it's a possibility, but I don't think that Epstein, I don't think it's fair to say at this point that Epstein was merely working possibly with the Mossad. He seemed to have connections to intelligence agencies all over the planet, and he was a very well-connected individual who spent a lot of his time cultivating relationships with important people. Now, why did he cultivate those relationships? The one theory is that he wanted to gain blackmail tapes by inviting people to the so-called Epstein Island, and gain videotape of them engaging in sexual improprieties. And these are all theories, and I don't know if they have been substantiated. But Jeffrey Epstein is a shady figure, and the more we learn about him, the more we see the very strong connections that he had to powerful people, and it raises a lot of questions about what his role was and why people turned a blind eye to his improprieties for so many years. Were they implicated in any schemes of Jeffrey Epstein's? I don't know for sure, but he's a very shady figure, and now fortunately we're learning more about him, and I hope I hope that this comes to a positive resolution sometime soon.
Yes, we will be eyeing that. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Badam for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to our tech news. Elon Musk's social media platform X has officially challenged a 120 million euro fine imposed by the European Union, taking the dispute to the EU's top court. The penalty, levied in December, was one of the first major enforcement actions under the bloc's new digital content regulations. X argues the EU's investigation was superficial and failed to consider the complexities of content moderation at scale. The fine was triggered by alleged failures to curb illegal content and disinformation, but X's legal team claims the EU rushed its findings to make an example of the platform. The European Commission, however, remains confident in its decision, stating it is ready to defend the fine in court. The outcome could have far-reaching implications, setting a precedent for regulating the big tech platforms in the EU and shaping the future of digital governance globally. Now we welcome Professor Rohan Gunaratne. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Gunaratne, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, how significant is this, the fact that, X was sued and now X is suing this whole lawsuit back at EU? And what do you think about, if this goes on, whatever comes out of it, how will that affect the whole tech industry or the social media industry?
Asuma, what we are witnessing is tremendous unhappiness on the part of the United States because EU imposed this 120 million euro fine. And of course, the US State Department or the US Foreign Ministry itself has expressed deep disappointment. And of course, the US government will take action against those officials who worked with the US court system in this matter. So what is going to happen is it's going to disrupt the cooperation and the collaboration between the Americans and the Europeans, because the fine is huge. But also, if there is no resolution to the appeal in a positive way, this will become a persistent discord and unhappiness between the US and the Europeans.
Right. So do you think that this directly is not just between tech industries or, but rather it's also political?
It has become political now because the Americans have raised this issue with the Europeans, and the US is very unhappy, and the US will pursue and take certain measures against European officials who are responsible for this decision. So I believe that there should be a resolution, there should be a greater understanding between the two jurisdictions so that this will not happen again.
Yes, and how important do you think that the timing of all this, right now is for not just tech industries, but overall democracies and transparencies and social media, and to regulate a lot of things, as we don't know, there's so much uncertainty among the development, especially in tech industry?
Firstly, the digital space must be very tightly regulated, because in the recent past, we have seen the digital space being used, misused, and abused by various actors, and that shouldn't happen. So there must be a greater willingness on the part of governments and those responsible agencies to work together so that there will be common rules and there should be common standards and there should be agreements so that it will be a safe space for everyone to function and operate.
Yes. Thank you for highlighting that. And with that, I'd like to thank Professor Gunratna for joining us and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.